tradition, the landscaping tradition of a century earlier, before the Industrial Revolution. What happened to that landscaping tradition? Why is that seen as something separate from infrastructure?
Now there's a thought. In recent years, the story of British infrastructure has been a string of costly battles between developers and protesters, with both sides digging in. But does it have to be a battle? Is it possible to build for the future while preserving our natural heritage? This is the Devil's Punch Bowl in Surrey, a beauty spot with a past. Dame Fiona Reynolds heads the National Trust, which owns the land.
So Fiona, I used to drive down this section of the A3. It is just an unbelievable and spectacular change. It's just incredible.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I did too, or, you know, stop sometimes in the queues. But I think what's amazing about this is how quickly nature's reclaiming it.
And this is what it used to look like. For decades, the A3 snaked along this valley, a scar on a stunning natural amphitheatre. But the road needed expanding, and rather than take the cheap option, a flyover, they chose to exploit the great British talent for tunnelling.
I mean, it was phenomenally expensive, actually.
Yeah, it was. It was about £370 million, which is an enormous amount of money, but the benefit is absolutely huge. And the alternatives were horrific. I mean, there would have been a kind of huge kind of flyover across the Devil's Punch Bowl, one of the most important landscapes in southern England.
OK, so we know you like infrastructure, expensive as it can be, that improves the countryside. What about your view of the stuff that doesn't improve the countryside, but maybe gives us jobs, development, homes, roads, transport, all those things, other things that we want in our lives?
We always, as a society, have aspirations for the future. We have aspirations to get places faster, we have aspirations for the economy, we have aspirations for jobs, but we also have aspirations for quality of life. And I think what's happened over the years, and I've seen this in practice over many years of being involved in the environmental movement, is infrastructure projects are led by economic benefit, and then it's almost the environmentalists have to kind of campaign against. And what we've been trying to do over the years is to say infrastructure projects can deliver more benefits than the single economic driver that started them off. And if you can find ways of meeting all those objectives, environmental, social, as well as economic, then actually you get a product that is better from all perspectives and is the right thing to do for the long term.
When it comes to infrastructure in this country, we've often been paralysed by a dilemma between countryside, environment, quality of life and development. But if you are willing to spend a bit of cash, you can actually make your infrastructure quite countryside friendly. Not all of it, you're never going to make an airport, very sympathetic, but a lot of infrastructure can be made so. So here's a thought. Do we have to make a choice between environment and development? Maybe we can have both. Rather than being paralysed by the dilemma, maybe we should see it as a spur to action. We should just get on with doing more, not less.
Now, if you're one of the many people who feel uneasy at the prospect of building more and think I'm in danger of overstating the case, I have a final thought, one very close to home.
Ashton, this is Ashton. The train now standing at platform 2 is the 11:21 South West.
The old hometown looks the same as I step down from the train, and there's that old oak tree that I used to play on.
This is Ashtead in Surrey, where I grew up. quintessential leafy southeast England.
Arms reaching, smiling sweetly. It's good to touch the green, green grass of home.
Today, I'm coming back for the annual Village Day, a festival of candy floss, dog shows and good old-fashioned entertainment.
There we go. What do I have to do? On the red dot. I've got to land it on the red dot. But that's impossible.
No, it's not.
Okay, I've just got a little bit weighed up. Got to push it more to the right.
Little bit more.
I've got to push it quite a bit harder.
Not that hard.
Thank you very much. Not close enough. Great stuff. I'm afraid my hand's a bit wet, actually. Oh! Sorry.
It's just like old times, and that is rather the point in a way.
Never win. So this is where I was brought up. This was the local recreation ground, the Rec. Spent many happy hours here. But for many of my childhood years, Ashtead lived in fear. It had a nightmare vision, and that nightmare was called the M25. Hadn't been built then, of course, but it was set to come very close to here. Now, pretty well everybody I knew thought whatever motorways the South East needed, they didn't want one close to Ashtead.
When the M25 orbital motorway around London is completed, it will be 118 miles long, and a journey that now takes 6 hours will be cut to 2.
When the route of the M25 had been announced, it brought uproar right around the southeast.
The ceremonial opening of a motorway inquiry.
And the good people of Ashtead and Leatherhead rallied to the cause.
The Transport Minister will have to decide whether or not the M25 Leatherhead interchange goes ahead.
We were fired up by what was going to happen to our environment here. When they changed the route of the motorway from several miles out to bring it in between Ashtead and Leatherhead, it really got our dander up because they were going to impact on so much we hold dear.
John Earl was one of Ashtead's original protesters, a pillar of the community who became an unlikely rabble-rouser.
We got emotional about what was happening to us. Like British bulldogs, we were going to shake this one until it stopped.
What was the most outrageous thing you did?
I suppose disrupting the inquiry at Bookham with foghorns, those compressed air things that make a lot of noise, and nasty smells, and generally...
Smells as well as noise?
Smells as well, yes.
Stink bombs?
Yes, being a chemical engineer, you know about these things, so yes. Looking back on that, am I ashamed? Not really, no. When you get excited about what you're trying to do, you'll do anything to stop and make people listen.
But John lost his rather admirable battle. Ashtead got a brand new Junction 9, and the South East got its orbital motorway.
Now, some people are saying that the road is a disaster. I must say I can't stand those who carp and criticise when they ought to be congratulating Britain on a magnificent achievement and beating the drum for Britain all over the world.
Here's the thing that strikes me whenever I'm back. Things are just the same. The M25 is far from perfect, but the world didn't stop turning, and Ashtead wasn't ruined. That's my personal feeling, but what about theirs?
So I want to ask you a question, so listen carefully. If I could click my fingers and at a stroke remove the M25, so obviously you wouldn't have the noise, and obviously you wouldn't have the motorway to get around. Can I just see, how many of you would like me to click my fingers and remove the M25? How many of you would like to keep the M25? Yes! Very interesting. Well, those votes will be taken into account. click your fingers and hope it went away?
I think, to give you an honest opinion, it's got to stay where it is. I wouldn't click it away because the amount of traffic has increased so much. I mean, the roads around here, when the motorway's got a problem at these local junctions, it's gridlock around Ashton, Epsom, Leatherhead in a twinkle of an eye. You know when something happened on the motorway because all the streets fill up. People are piling off the motorway.
Even the local band are called Junction 9 in honour of the motorway. And I think there's something encouraging here, because what a trip to Ashtead reminds me is that while humans often instinctively resist change, when that change eventually comes, we rise to the challenge.
So with infrastructure, you find a community adapts itself to the infrastructure around it. They don't want anything new, but give them something new and they'll adapt to that and then be perfectly content. And it seems that's what's happened here.
Back at Crossrail, Phyllis is still burrowing her way under Paddington, and that London clay is being shipped out by rail to make a new nature reserve on the Essex coastline. This place is proof that Britain can pull off the re-engineering we need, and we've seen that we do need it. To replace the fraying fabric of the country, to give the economy options for growth, to make people more productive, to enhance the environment. But at £15 billion, Crossrail doesn't come cheap, and nor does the shopping list for Britain's infrastructure needs. Yet if we want to future-proof Britain in a fast-changing world, we might just have to bite the bullet.
You may believe we should invest a lot more in infrastructure, but have one last nagging doubt, that we will somehow screw it all up, end up wasting money. So many of these big construction projects go wrong, don't they? Well, I've some good news. We appear to be getting the hang of them. And next time I'll show you why we have no reason to be scared of big projects and every reason to allow ourselves to be a lot more ambitious.
From the infrastructure that made the Olympics work to the engineering marvels of High Speed 1. How we're learning from some spectacular mistakes to become a can-do nation once again.
What benefit has the last 150 years of infrastructure development in Britain brought to the country?